believe God exists?
I don't believe there's enough evidence for God's existence.
Okay, fair enough. That's the first statement. What evidence would suffice to convince you without a shadow of doubt that the Creator exists?
Empirical.
Empirical. Okay? Explain a bit further.
Any evidence, let's say. Any tangible evidence.
Such as?
Such as for existence. Manifests itself, shows itself, does something that announces before that I'm doing it. Well, he can't. Any evidence that I exist.
Fine. So if you heard a voice in the sky saying, I am God, believe in me, you would accept?
If I heard.
Yeah, if you heard.
No, it has to be substantiated by others. I am
if we
not.
Heard that, now someone in the sky saying, I am God, believe in me, that will be sufficient evidence to
It was
accept.
objective enough, yes.
What do you mean objective enough?
Well, if it's not something like happened in Fatima,
If we all heard a voice coming from the sky,
coming from the sky,
you see someone, you see some image there.
if God,
right.
God speaks and say, I'm God, and there are people from different groups of life.
No. If all of us heard that, it will be sufficient evidence.
That'd be evidence.
That will be sufficient evidence. Yeah. And you would not even question that?
We need something replicable. As well as empirical, it needs to be replicable. So it should match
So that needs to be done twice or thrice, a few times, right? Someone needs to speak to you and saying, I'm God from this, and you would accept it.
Sure.
And you would accept it?
I'll have to, there's evidence for it. I'm not going to be against evidence.
Wait. So basically, if you heard from the sky a voice and you saw something, and you would be pretty much certain that is God?
Pretty much so. No.
That's what I'm asking you. Conviction and certainty, you're saying no. So that isn't an evidence.
No.
What kind of evidence would suffice you?
You changed your question.
What have I changed?
Because first of all, you just said if you heard that you believe there is some evidence, yes.
I didn't say anything like that. I asked you first, what would be convincing evidence for you that will satisfy you? Compelling evidence. That example that I offered you, would that be compelling and satisfactory for you?
Sure.
You're sure? So if you heard a voice and you saw something saying, I'm God, that is, you'll be absolutely certain now God exists.
There has to be. So, what's the notion of God, first of all? Because every God is different.
Hang on. This voice says, I am God. Are you now going to be absolutely certain and convinced?
That's not enough. No.
So that's why I'm asking you. The example that you initially was
But
agreeing.
you see how confusing that is because there is no one singular notion of God.
Let me continue. I asked you for an example of a compelling evidence.
Yes.
That wasn't one.
That's
so,
evidence.
So try again.
There's no evidence for one kind of God.
Hang on. God. We're talking about God, the creator of the
God?
cosmos. He says, I am the creator of all things that exist.
And I'm supposed to take the word
And would that be compelling? You say no. So try another example that will be compelling for you.
I'm saying replicate that again.
If that happens again.
Shows that thing or whatever the voice is capable enough to create something new.
So it's something that this voice, they create something,
Yes.
and you believe in it. That yes, I'm
If
certain.
there is evidence, yes, I will.
What do you mean evidence? If what you ask for is provided, you believe in it.
No, it's not.
We're still in the same plane.
No, I am trying to establish what meets your criteria of satisfactory and compelling evidence. Every time we're trying to offer on your likings, it seems that it is never going to be satisfactory to you. That is why we are asking is, what would be compelling to you, not to me?
And what if the answer to that is I'm not sure unless I actually see something, and then I could deduce based on what's in front of me? Is that an acceptable answer?
No, because then you will say, oh, it's not compelling. We want from you with your clean heart. No. We want simply from your heart saying, look, from your initial position, there are no sufficient evidence for God. That's what you said, right? That's what you said.
Yes.
That means you are open to evidence. That means you have an idea what that evidence looks like. If you don't have an idea what the evidence looks like, idea what the evidence looks like, then you cannot say if sufficient evidence is provided to me, I will accept, because you haven't got a clue what the sufficient evidence is.
Yes,
you are in a
because we're dealing
position.
with the unknown. That be again making up your mind about the unknown. I'm saying once the evidence is presented, let's analyze and review something.
Absolutely not. You need to have.
Is that not sensible thing to do?
You need to have, firstly, the moment you have a position, ideological position, there is no sufficient evidence to me yet to accept a God creator. That means you have some understanding of what evidence will be compelling to you.
No. That means I'll see when the evidence comes forward and judge it on the basis
Absolutely
of the evidence.
not.
You're just being argumentative.
Absolutely not.
No, you are
Let's
being
move the
argumentative.
conversation forward.
I think he's asking, what is your criteria? When you look for God, what criteria do you use? That if I find...
don't look for God.
No, hear me out. So if I find X, Y, and Z, then that is what God is to me. Do you have such a criteria?
No.
Then how would you know what you're looking for?
Because when the evidence is provided, you.
unknown.
What do you mean
It's
unknown?
unknown for you as well.
No, when you say unknown, what do you mean? When you say you're looking for God, then
I never said that.
so you're not looking for God. So you're not open to looking for God at all.
No.
There you
I
go.
spend my day with
That's what
When you say, I will analyze the evidence, the problem is this. When you look at the evidence, you will say, that's not sufficient, because you will shift the goalpost of what is sufficient to you. That is why from the very outset, let me finish. From the very outset, you should have some criteria which will determine sufficiency of evidence from the very beginning. Someone created the universe self-created it.
No idea. Again,
Is it possible the universe can self-create?
we don't know.
Let's think. Logical thinking earlier, remember? Right? You said logical thinking.
No one can be certain for sure.
Wait,
That's what I'm saying.
wait.
No one can be certain.
Are you certain about that?
No.
Then what's the point of talking then?
Are you certain that someone created the world?
If no one can be certain about anything,
Look, you're not
why
answering
do you
my
even
question.
talk?
You're not answering my question. Are you certain that someone created the world?
Yes,
How do you know?
because the one who created told us.
Sorry?
The one who created this world has told us, informed us.
In a book that someone written.
So if it was in a cassette, it would be better, right?
No. It's the same thing, same scenario.
So what's the problem?
Why would someone almighty, the creator of everything, write a book for you to follow?
If the creator gave me guidance in audio message or a written message, do I need to have a preference? I don't understand your point.
No. I mean,
Why is this objection?
there are better methods of telling people.
Like what, for example?
I'll print my name on the sky and say, I'm here.
Wouldn't that just prove it solid though?
Sorry?
Would that be any kind of test?
Okay, brother.
Why would he test it?
Suppose now we just hear a voice from the sky.
Yes.
I'm God, I created you. Would you believe?
I'll be certain. I'll be actually uncertain because it could be anything.
So you're demanding an evidence which will not give you certainty. Is that logical thinking?
It can be.
No, is that logical thinking?
Again, it's completely different.
No, it's not completely different.
It is.
So again, better ways you said. Better ways, instead of revealing a guidance to prophets and messengers, you said what? One in the sky, voice in the sky, which cannot give you certainty.
I'll print my name. I'll print my name on the sky.
If you see your name printed in the sky, you'll be certain.
I'd question it, but I'd be more certain than a
Would
book.
you be certain?
I'd be more certain than...
It's not more certainty. Would you be certain that that's it? I'm certain now God exists.
You cannot be 100% certain of anything.
Give me something that will give you 100% certainty.
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing.
No such thing. It could be an illusion, it could be anything.
Right. So you're demanding evidence which will never give you 100% certainty.
It's more certain than a book.
It's not about comparative more certainty. Can you be certain is the question. You said, I can never be certain. Then why do you even demand in the first place?
What kind of question is that? I mean, it's a question with...
It's like ordering something you don't want to eat. I mean, I don't understand where you're coming from.
It's nothing like that.
You are demanding evidence which will not satisfy you.
It's more satisfying.
No, not more satisfying.
something printed.
I want you to something that will satisfy you and convince you That's it. You say that's it. I don't want anything else.
It could be an illusion. It could be anything. God himself could come down, and I could be hallucinating. Mass hallucinations happened previously.
You're giving me something that would not satisfy you. What I want from you is what will satisfy you? Nothing. So basically, is it worth even demanding from anyone evidence about God? Because nothing will satisfy you.
No. That would feed onto something. That would probably make me believe a bit more. But
what about belief? What will give you absolute certainty? Nothing.
There's nothing.
Right. So what's the point of even getting this, some less certain things in your life?
And they thrive in it.
What kind of question is that?
Well, it's a simple question.
It's not a simple question.
I can't believe it philosophically. There's nothing to prove it. But in principle, yes, I think
I don't understand your question. There's nothing to prove what? The morality or the creator?
Creator. I can't believe, philosophically, I can't believe that a creator exists. But I think it is a better principle if he...
That's understood. So when we say you can't prove there's a creator, how did you disprove there isn't?
No, who said that is proved?
Okay, so the question now is, you're in a position where you cannot prove or disprove a creator.
No.
But the fact...
And it will never change. That's not an indecisive, it will never change.
But the reality is, either there is a creator or there isn't. Yeah. Right, so if there is a creator, there has to be ways of proving it.
Yeah. But they're not convincing.
And what would be a convincing way of proving it?
Well, nothing. I don't think there is a way.
You're actually closing all the avenues of knowledge,
because
aren't
if I
you?
tell you, maybe if I hear a sound from, I could be hallucinating. So there is no proof. There will never be a proof.
So what gives you that certainty there won't be any proof? How are you certain?
Because you can't prove something like this. I can't prove something invisible.
No, how are you certain?
How do you prove this?
No. This is the question we're asking. If there is a possibility.
I could tell you, I will believe there's a creator if something happens, like a miracle happens. But
would you?
That could be anything. That could be hallucinating.
Exactly. So, in principle, there has to be a way of establishing the existence of a creator.
Yeah, but what
if
way?
you haven't found ways of doing that, then perhaps
you will decide the way.
No, not me.
What?
That's what we're discussing. There has to be a way of proving
Maybe
it.
I'll tell you. Maybe if an animal talks to me, I'll believe there's God. But
you see,
what does that mean?
my friend,
does it mean
there has to be a way of proving it. If the creator exists,
I don't
there has.
know. No,
So if you
there
don't
isn't,
know,
because you can't talk about something that's invisible. You can't
Invincible.
decide- You can't decide what is
gravity.
convincing.
Is gravity visible or invisible?
Huh?
Gravity. If you drop your bottle, would that go
Gravity is
up
science.
or down?
Oh, now you're talking about
No.
science. It's very-
Because you made a very interesting example. Invincibility.
yeah.
Gravity is not visible.
It can be proved scientifically.
Yeah. So you have to now.
Gravity, I have to admit.
No, you have to admit that
I'm not
it is not
qualified.
about invincibility.
It's good to admit.
That's the problem, right?
Invisibility.
You agree? It is not about visibility or invisibility.
It's not.
Yeah. So the creator's existence and proving the existence of the creator is not because the creator is not visible. Because gravity is not visible, but you can prove it.
Cool. No, gravity, I can. You can ask questions about it. Oh, this glass.
It
fell
falls
down.
because
I
of
ask-
gravity.
You can ask a question, but how do you begin to ask a question about God?
If there was no God, would there be anything? If there was no gravity, would that fall? We can ask questions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
So
I think it's a different thing.
it's not a different thing. It's the same kind of inquiry.
Because that's
The inquiry is
that's
about
hard evidence.
the inquiry is about
Question about
cause and
very
effect.
Specific thing. Why did the glass fall?
Because
Very, very
the effect of falling was due to a
How do
cause.
you ask? Why are we here? That doesn't intrinsically mean there is a creator. Or it's not the
Would
same
you not
thing.
agree?
This is a very
The reason the line of questioning is this: why does that fall?
Yeah.
Because falling is an effect.
yes.
And we are now attributing a cause to this effect because
Yeah,
what we
there must be
see,
something.
there has to be a cause for the effects.
yes.
So if, for example, you are here, there has to be a cause for your existence
Yes,
because you're an effect.
absolutely.
If the universe exists
Of course,
or
of
began
course.
to exist,
Of course,
there has to be a cause
yeah.
for its existence.
Of course, yeah.
So we can ask this question.
We can ask this.
Exactly.
Why
So
did we exist? Yeah. You can ask it, but there is no answer.
when we attributed this
You can't
falling
decide the
and said it was
answer according
gravity, you see, look, we said this was due to gravity. So you actually put an answer forward. Rather than saying there is no answer why the bottle falls on the ground.
You actually went along
Maybe
and put...
there will be an answer. I haven't heard it yet.
Nothing's convincing.
So that's why we need to know what will be convincing to us. I mean, interestingly, you did say if people demand...
Evidence is convincing. There is
Exactly. But what level of evidence?
of anything. No, even scientists, they don't have any.
To give you an
They say they
example,
don't know how to
to give an example, the skepticism or hyper-skepticism that we are illustrating in this particular discussion, have you had a brain scan of your own self? Right. So you haven't seen your own brain.
No. But
Does your brain exist?
I know it's that. Yeah.
What evidence do you have to suggest that your brain exists?
I don't think it's I don't.
No,
I don't
we
think
just
that
want
these
to
are
we just want to
you're
extrapolate
just asking-
the reasonings that we
It's not
use
the same
in
thing.
terms of the level of skepticism that we use in everyday thinking. Have you been to Africa?
Well, where in Africa?
Okay, maybe you have. Have you
I've
been
been to Africa, yeah.
Okay. Have you been to
Egypt.
Indonesia?
Egypt is Africa.
Have you been to
I've been to
Indonesia?
Egypt. Oh, you think?
No.
You mean Nigeria? Or
Have you been to Indonesia? Indonesia.
No.
Right. Does Indonesia exist?
I don't think you're making sense.
Sorry?
I,
No, let's try to understand how we built the level of confidence away from skepticism.
yeah.
No, the reason why I'm using this, look, my friend,
You can do
it is simple
You can do
to,
better than
Can
that.
you
Listen.
Can you Google Indonesia?
I'm addressing what we call skepticism
Yeah.
and how we can be certain in affirming something. For example, when we haven't been to Indonesia, we can Google it. So we are trusting the people who put up pictures in Google or description in
know,
Google.
we know.
So you are relying in what
We're
we
human
call...
beings, of course we have to trust
Look,
each other.
I don't have a problem with that. So you are relying on what we call testimony.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
if we take that principle,
Testimony,
that
yeah.
testimony is a reliable evidence, so now I say, look, Prophet...
Yeah, that's why I think maybe Jesus exists, yeah.
No,
Jesus
so
exists,
not
Muhammad
maybe.
exists.
Are you saying maybe or definitely Indonesia exists?
God in Google?
Definitely, good. So now, if we find information that's been passed to us by testimony, there are hundreds and thousands of men of God that receive revelation from God as prophets and messengers, and then they said, look, and then we relied and trusted their testimony. So if I rely on their testimony and trust the testimony,
Yeah.
and you rely on the testimony of Google,
Testimony.
why are you
Differ.
going to be
They're not the same.
inconsistent?
Testimony of Jesus is a different testimony from someone who went to
Yes,
Indonesia.
absolutely.
That is the point. Please stop being smart.
Say again. Explain that a bit more. Say Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yes, a testimony
No,
of
he
someone
said,
who saw
who said,
Muhammad
who said,
is a different testimony
No,
from someone
who said,
went to
I
Indonesia.
have been.
Please understand this and
Sorry?
stop repeating the point.
No. Look, you cannot just simply brush the argument away underneath the carpet.
That's why
the
it's
argument,
endless,
no,
classic
the
endless
argument is
discussion. I thought it was
raised.
endless.
You have to show how the argument is invalid. I've given you an example about testimony. Like, you have not an image of your own brain. The testimony that you have is other people, their brain scan demonstrates they have a brain. But you haven't done a scan of your own brain. So you have now made, not testimony, do you agree? You have made a generalization based on assumption. That other people, no, this is how your evidence works.
If you go to, if someone tells you that Indonesia exists, you can actually go. Exactly.
Have you gone there?
Yes.
Wait. Have you, no, wait there. Excuse me, have you gone there yet?
Yes.
Has he gone there? You haven't. So that means,
But I can tell you.
you see, listen,
I've been
listen.
there. Yeah, but
If you haven't been there, that means, for example, have you had a scan of your pancreas? Pancreas. Right. Does your
has nothing
pancreas,
to do with it.
excuse
So we can continue to discuss
No.
about other topics.
Listen.
Have you studied quantum physics?
You should learn.
little bit, yeah.
But it has nothing to do with it.
No, the reason I'm asking is, when we want to understand and affirm the knowledge of something, that yes, I'm certain. Are you certain you have a pancreas?
Probably. Yes.
Are you certain? No. Right. So you're skeptical that you have a pancreas. Do you have a heart? The actual heart, physical heart. Are you certain?
Pounding in my,
Are you certain
chest.
it's the heart? Have you seen it?
It's a diaphragm.
No.
Exactly. You're not certain. So you're skeptical
So
that you.
Descartes.
Wait a moment, my
Yes.
friend.
You
You're
don't think that
skeptical.
That's the only thing you
Please,
show.
you're skeptical that you have a heart or not, you have a pancreas or not. I mean, have you had a brain scan?
No,
yourself?
but everything is
Are you
logical.
skeptical?
If I just take a logical arguments, I can just build myself in this.
Do you see what you're doing now? Instead of bringing hard evidence, let's try to understand the level of evidence you're bringing. Your level of evidence is logical, as you said, logical evidence, assumptions through generalization, testimony. Okay, so are you absolutely certain that you have a brain?
No.
There you go. So you haven't got.
I'm not saying that I have one, so I'm not wrong.
Hang on. So when you're speaking to me, you really think that you haven't got a brain.
No, I just don't.
What makes you think you have a brain?
I don't say I have one. I don't say I don't have one. You just ask me
okay.
if I think.
Okay, let me ask you. Do you have a brain?
I don't know.
You don't know.
What's your point?
So you might think that you don't have a brain, or you have a brain, right?
I don't know. I just said I don't know. You're repeating yourself.
No. You really think you don't know, right?
Yes.
Okay. You sound an honest answer.
Yeah.
You honestly think that you don't know whether you have a brain or not.
Yes.
Really? Yes. Very interesting. So when you go, do you work or study?
I work.
Work. In your workplace, do you use your brain?
I don't know. I manage to think.
Right. So what do you use to do all this work? And,
my hands. I can
your
see
hands.
them.
Okay. And your hand operates through what? By itself?
I don't know how I use them.
You tell your employee you don't have a brain.
People say it's the brain that determines the movements.
Do you need to know if you have a brain to live?
No.
Because definitely. So you don't need to know if you have a brain to be able to use it.
I'm interested in finding out if you don't know you have a brain or not, and scientists are telling us it's the brain that actually regulates our movement and so on. So you think?
Believe their testimony.
Do you believe that you have a brain?
I don't care.
Do you believe?
I can create a logical construction based on what they're saying and not assume anything in the end. Just until I get a proof that it's correct or not, I can assume that it's correct or not. But if the whole logical construction is working, I can not disprove it.
So now you're bringing this question about logical credibility. If we use logical arguments, it's possible that we can accept it as an evidence. Is that what you're saying? So if someone demonstrates to you through a logical argument...
construction can be logical and validated.
Validated means you can accept it.
Doesn't mean that the basement is validated.
You're saying validated means it's acceptable.
Acceptable if the basement is validated.
What do you mean by basement?
The basement of
the premise.
The hypothesis.
The premises. Okay.
But if you disprove the hypothesis, the whole construction falls down.
Yeah. So can you use a logical argument that you have a brain?
So far, no.
So far, no.
Die and look into my own head, skull.
So all your everyday life, because you must have studied, right, in school and university, whatever, right? And then you never once thought that I may have a brain.
I may have, but it's, as you said,
but you don't
it's
know.
only generalization.
So you don't know.
I've seen a brain in the human skull.
Sure.
I cannot prove that I have the same in my skull. I can just assume that given that it's the higher, the most likely.
Let me ask you another very silly question. Yes. Are you certain that you exist?
This is an interesting question.
That's what I said. It's silly, but it's interesting. Are you certain you exist?
No.
You're not certain?
No, maybe as Elon Musk said, we're maybe just a big simulation.
Yeah, it could be a brain in a jar, right?
What kind of
in a museum, it could be a brain in a jar.
Do you think you sound rational when you say these things?
No, it's not rational.
I mean, how can anyone take you seriously when you say these things?
You're ready to say a brain in a jar.
No.
Okay, this is not reality, but you're not ready to admit.
I mean, do you live your life like this, in oblivion? Like you don't know anything.
Not knowing.
I mean, do you feel good about this, like thinking like this? Is it a good way of thinking?
Does it give you peace and tranquility in your heart? What? Being that kind of hyper-skeptical, does it give you this tranquility in your heart? Who you are, what you hear, what are you doing?
practice because I can build myself on this logical assumption. So far, if this proves ground hypothesis, I'm just asking for you ground hypothesis that makes you believe.
But you're not certain you exist or not. It could be just an illusion.
Are you certain that you exist? I've been
I am
answering
certain.
all your questions.
I am
about
certain.
why.
Yeah. It's not about why. I am certain.
Okay, so you were answering question for like 10 minutes now.
Yeah.
No, it's my turn. Why are you sure
Okay.
you exist?
So you want to know. So you want to know from me. Hang on. You want to know from me why I'm certain.
You couldn't take it.
Next.
Reality was too harsh.
Who's next? Reality was too harsh.
Next.
Mansur was more. Reality was too harsh.
The level of hyper-skepticism, really, you see, in the everyday life.
That's insincerity.
Exactly.
He
In
knows-
the everyday
he knows
life,
very well.
they won't behave with that. Imagine he had a girlfriend or a wife. Would you really think that her girlfriend doesn't exist like he doesn't exist?
Do I exist, baby?
Okay, may Allah guide us all, you know. May